everybody, I hope you're all well. Today I'm coming to you with my June/May book haul. I'm not really sure when I accumulated all these books. I just know I've accumulated quite a few, so I need to show them to you guys. And I'm very excited about, well, all of these obviously, but a few in particular. A note beforehand, a lot of these are from Abe Books, a discount site that I'm sure a lot of you are familiar with that sell new and used books, but you can get it mostly used, and you can get the used ones for very cheap, and it's very exciting. So I kind of went a little crazy on that site, and the first one that I have to show you that I got from that site is The Thorn and the Blossom by Theodora Goss, a two-sided love story. And this you may have seen before. It's published by Quirk Books, and it's very unique because, like it says, it's a two-sided love story. Let me try to show you what that means without ruining it. It is a double-sided format. So this is the woman's side, Evelyn. This is Evelyn's story, her side of the story, and you can open it and read it this way from her side of the story. And then when you flip it around, it is the guy in the relationship side of the story, Brendan. You get the same story told from two different points of view in the same little book, and it's just a great, really unique idea, and I think it's just going to be really exciting and cool to see how this works, and maybe a little difficult to read logistically, but enjoyable nonetheless. And I actually decided to pick some writing up by Theodora Goss because she wrote an article for a magazine that I subscribe to, Fairy Magazine, in their spring issue, which is this right here. And she wrote an article that was really great, and I really enjoyed, about the fairy tale heroine's journey. So I really enjoyed that, and I wanted to pick up some more of her work, so I decided I would start with this. She also has a short story collection and a poetry collection that I am very excited to get my hands on, hopefully in the near future, so we'll see about that. Then the next thing I have was also from Abe Book. This is all thanks to my friend Lil from Lil's Vintage World for turning me on to this book, because I didn't know it existed before, but once I heard her talk about it, I knew I needed it in my life, and that is Tale of Beatrix Potter by Margaret Lane. This is a biography of Beatrix Potter, obviously, who I am kind of obsessed with. She's one of those authors/historical figures that I've just always been really interested in, and I love the movie Miss Potter with Renee Zellweger and Ewan McGregor. It breaks my heart, just shatters me every time I watch it, but I absolutely love it. It's a beautiful film. And yes, I wanted to learn even more about her life, so I decided I would pick this up, and I'm very excited to read this. The next one I picked up was something that I've already read before, and it's one of my favorite books ever. I saw this beautiful copy at Barnes & Noble for a very low price, so I decided I would treat myself to it, and that is The Story of My Life by Helen Keller. Helen Keller's autobiography, obviously. And it's just, this is a gorgeous little hardcover edition with a portrait of Helen right there. And I don't know if you can tell, but in the background there are pictures of Braille there. And that's what the spine looks like, and that's the back. And then the next thing I have is something I also got off Abe Books, of course. And that is Miss Pettigrew Lives for a Day by Winifred Watson. And I'm super excited to pick this up. This is the beautiful Persephone edition. I am super excited to pick this up. I've already seen the movie, I know, bookish sin, watching the movie before reading the book, but I absolutely loved the movie, so I'm very excited to pick up the book. This is about Miss Pettigrew, who is sort of an unconventional governess, and she gets fired from her job, and she steals, while she's in her former employer's office, she steals the address of someone that her employer was going to send another governess to that day, so she steals the address and goes there and pretends to still be employed so that she can get the job. And it turns out the situation is a little bit different than she thought it would be, and she goes through all these wonderful, crazy adventures on this one day. And then the next thing I got was actually from Book Outlet, not from Abe Books this time, and that is Big Fish, a novel of mythic proportions by Daniel Wallace. This is another bookish sin I've committed because I've watched this movie as well. In all fairness, I didn't know that this one was a book before I watched the movie, so I unknowingly committed the bookish sin. So maybe that makes it better, I don't know. But anyway, I loved the movie. It's directed by Tim Burton, who I absolutely love, one of my favorite directors. It is about Edward Bloom, who is just kind of this larger-than-life personality, and he's always spent his whole life telling his son these, fantastical tales about his youth and his life and all the crazy things that he's done and the people that he's met. These tales delighted his son when he was younger, but as he grows up, he wants his dad to start telling him the truth more and stop just telling him these tales. He's grown older, he's decided can, in no way be the truth about his father's life, and he just wants to know the truth, and especially since his father is in ill health and is dying now, he wants to know the truth about his life before he passes away. Next book is another one from A Books, and it is Dreams Underfoot by Charles DeLint. The first book of short stories set in Charles DeLint's famous fictional town of Newford. I read The Cats of Tanglewood Forest a couple last month for the MG May Reads Readathon, and I absolutely loved that book. Kind of got a little obsessed with Charles DeLint after that and looking through his whole bibliography and finding something to read next by him because I loved his writing, and I decided on this. I think there are a lot of magical realism elements in this, which is one of my absolute favorite genres, so let me just read you part of the back cover. It says, "Welcome to Newford. Welcome to the music clubs, the waterfront, the alleyways where ancient myths and magic spill into the modern world. Come meet Jilly, painting wonders in the rough city streets, and Geordie, playing fiddle while he dreams of a ghost, and the angel of Grasso Street, gathering the fey and the wild and the poor and the lost. Gimmons live in abandoned cars, and skells traverse the tunnels below, while mermaids swim in the gray harbor waters and fill the cold night with their song." I mean, that was enough to sell me for sure. It just sounds amazing. I'm very excited to dive into this. And the next two are also A Books purchases. It's another case of kind of getting obsessed with an author after I heard about one of their books. One of these books that I purchased by this author, I have two of them I've heard of before, and that one is Splinters Glooms, and the author is Laura Amy Schlitz, I believe. I've heard of this before, and it always sounded good, but I got really interested in it after I actually was out on Amazon one day at the new releases that were up in the second half of this year, which I might do a video about my most anticipated releases for the remainder of this year. Let me know if you guys would like to see that. Anyway, I came across her newest release, which is coming out in September, called The Hired Girl, and it just sounded amazing. So of course I had to look at all her current published works, and all of them sounded amazing, and I wanted to buy all of them immediately. But I settled for two for right now, and this one is called Splinters Glooms, like I said, and it is a Victorian tale, I believe, about there's a master puppeteer, which, I mean, really that would be enough to hook me. Who doesn't want to read about a puppeteer? And these two orphans that travel with him, and there's some kind of mysterious secrets going around between all of them, and then there's this wealthy girl who wants the puppeteer to perform at her birthday party, and she kind of gets thrown in the mix with all the secrets and everything. That's a terrible description, I'm very sorry. Obviously I don't know very much about what this is about, but I'm just super excited to dive into it. It sounds really intriguing, and I will hopefully give you a better idea of what it's about after I read it. The second thing I have by that same author is Brown Maiden's Hair, a melodrama, and this just sounded super intriguing. I'm just gonna read the back to you real fast because obviously I don't know what either of these are about too well to be able to describe them on my own. So, very quickly, Maud Flynn is plain, clever, and bad, so it comes as a surprise when she's plucked from the Barbary Asylum for Female Orphans and adopted by the elderly Hawthorne sisters. Maud eagerly hopes to be pampered and cherished by the sisters, and life seems perfect until Maud learns of the role she has to play in the high-stakes family business. Set in the early 20th century, A Drowned Maiden's Hair takes readers into the shadowy world of spiritualism as Maud must decide just how much she is willing to do for the sake of being loved. So that just sounds awesome as well. Next one I have is also from A Books. Can you see how obsessed I am with this site? This is a graphic novel that I have been eagerly anticipating owning and reading since I found out about it from Misty over at Book Rat Misty in her graphic novel collection video that she did last year, I think. I will try to remember to link that below. It's awesome. She has so many great recommendations. We share practically the exact same taste in what we like in graphic novels. And the one that I was most excited about from that video is Castle Waiting, Volume 1 by Linda Medley. And this just sounds right up my alley. I'm just going to read you one sentence from the back of it that I think just really will capture anyone who would be interested in reading this. It says, Castle Waiting has everything in it that the author had been born to do. Comics, Grimms, Rackham, fairies, Magic, Potions, Notions, Pregnancy, Birth, Death, Jokes, Truth. It just sounds amazing to me. It's all in black and white. I'll show you a little bit of the illustrations. The next thing I have is also from my book outlet order, and it was during my buy all the circus books that you have ever heard of phase when brought on in part by Jen Campbell's video, books about circuses and freak shows, so I'll also link that below in case you haven't seen it. It's awesome. I love Jen Campbell. And this one is The Swan Gondola by Timothy Shaffert. I actually heard about this one in Fairy Magazine, which I mentioned earlier. Timothy Shaffert had a short story in the winter edition, I want to say, of the magazine. And I read the short story, of course, and really enjoyed it and wanted to pick up some more of his writing. And this one was on Book Outlet with this gorgeous cover for, of course, very cheap. Let me take off the dust jacket and show you. These are the end papers, which are beautiful. And then this is the naked hardback, which I just think is lovely. I love this little symbol here in the beautiful blue colors. Like I said, it's a circus novel. It's set at the Omaha World's Fair, which took place in 1898, and it follows a ventriloquist who falls in love with one of the traveling troupe of actors from the circus. And yeah, it's just about what happens between them, and I'm very excited to dive into this one as well. Another circus-esque book that I decided to pick up that I think Jen recommended in her circuses video was Museum of Extraordinary Things by Alice Hoffman. It's the story of an electric and impassioned love between two vastly different souls in New York during the volatile first decades of the 20th century. The two people in this clandestine love affair are Coralie Sardi, who is the daughter of the sinister impresario behind the Museum of Extraordinary Things, Coney Island boardwalk freak show that thrills the masses. And then the other half of this couple is the dashing photographer Eddie Cohen, a Russian immigrant who has run away from his father's Lower East Side Orthodox community and his job as a tailor's apprentice. I got this book from Barnes & Noble, The Rivals of Sherlock Holmes, a collection of Victorian detective tales, divided into sections, and those include Distinguished Predecessors, Rivals from the Commonwealth, American Rivals, The Female of the Species, and Sherlockian Satires and Homages. So this just sounded fascinating to me, and of course the cover is gorgeous. And it was very cheap. I think it was only like $8 for this huge hardcover. So yeah, I'm very excited to dip in and out of this. Then I got the Lady Coddington's pressed fairy book, the 10 3/4 anniversary edition, and this is by Terry Jones and Brian Froud, I believe. Brian Froud is one of the biggest names in the modern fairy lore, fairy art kind of sphere. I am very interested in fairies, if you can't tell. I subscribe to Fairy Magazine. I mean, come on. Yeah, it's gorgeous, and it's just written by the fictional character of Lady Coddington, writing about all the fairies that she's found in her garden and has pressed into the pages of this book. But don't worry, no fairies were harmed in the making of this book. It says so in the introduction. And then the last thing I have is crowning jewel of this book haul, one of my new pride and joys in my book collection. And I just stumbled across this at Barnes & Noble one day. I had no idea it even existed. And this is one of my favorite books of all time, and I own, well, now 5 editions of it, which may seem excessive, but I think we can understand each other. We're all book lovers here. I think we can understand the collecting of different beautiful editions of one of our favorite books. And for me, this particular book I'm speaking of is Peter Pan by J.M. Barrie. I'm just going to give a moment of silence for the appreciation of this cover. I mean, look at that. Gorgeous. I don't even know what to say about this. I think my heart stopped for a moment when I saw this sitting on the shelf, because like I said, I had no idea it existed. It's gorgeous. And it was sitting in it wasn't even in the children's section. It was in the literary fiction new releases section. So that was even more of a shock to see it there, but it's absolutely beautiful. The end papers are gorgeous. The entire thing, it's one of the most beautiful books I've ever seen. Definitely one of the most beautiful books I own. I'm in love with it. And it's not only beautifully illustrated on the outside and the inside. This is how the beginning of every chapter has a full 2-color page spread with illustrations like this. It also includes 10 exclusive interactive elements. That's right, interactive elements. Like this right here, this little medical notes about the Darling children folds out. It's like the brain maps of all of the children, and it folds out even more. And there's a map of Neverland as they imagine it in their dreams. I mean, this is really hard to show. I mean, look at that. It's gorgeous. Unbelievable. And it has, like I said, 10 of these interactive elements throughout. And they are all equally beautifully designed and amazing, and just so, they just go so thoughtfully and beautifully well with the text. It's wonderful. They spin. This is another chapter opener page. I'm so eloquent today, but I'm just still in awe that this exists, and I own it, and it's so beautiful. This is a map of Skull Rock. Oh, so it's just beautiful, and this will definitely be the edition that I read the next time I decide to reread Peter Pan. In case you were wondering, this is actually published by Harper Design. The illustrations and the interactive elements were produced by the award-winning design studio Mina Lima. And that is all I have for you today in this book haul. I actually bought a few more things that are new, but I've read them this month, so I'll show them to you in my June wrap-up. So yeah, that is all I have for you today. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Let me know if you've read any of these books down below and what you thought of them, or if you plan to pick any of them up. And yeah, I'll talk to you guys next time. Bye.